welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzie. We have a great show for you today. First up, we will be covering is JD Martinez signing with the New York Mets. After that, we'll be talking about how does that signing affect the last big free agent left on the market, Jordan Montgomery. Then we'll be talking about some notable roster moves, players getting sent up and down, and finally, just some general news stories around the league as well. Now, before we do that, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that the question does get read on the air, please use the link gsmcpodcast.net. Really does to donate to the show. Really does help the show. Really does mean a lot. Really does help me. Really helps everyone here at the network. So thank you so much for that. And let's get into our first segment of the day. So, as I talked about a little bit before in the prequel there, the first segment we're going to be talking about is really the big significant news coming out of last night, and that is JD Martinez has finally agreed on where he will play baseball next year and finally signed, and that is it being with the New York Mets. Now, my general first thoughts on the deal were surprised. I am a Mets fan. I'm going to get that straight out of the way, so I'm going to be talking about this in a Mets fan's point of view, so just be prepared for that. So I was very surprised personally, listening to what everything new president of baseball operations David Stearns had to say. It seemed like Martinez wasn't going to be signed here, even with the rumors, because of the fact that they wanted to give the younger guys a chance. Guys like Mark Vientos, guys like Brett Beatty, even Ronnie Mauricio before he got hurt. Guys like that, they wanted to give them big chances at the designated hitter position, big chances to be impactful every single day, be in the lineup every single day, have a clear position. As he put it, if players are consistently performing in the minor league level, they should absolutely get a chance to perform at the major league level. So for that reason, as much as Martinez made a lot of sense for the Mets, as much as he was rumored to them a lot, with other teams of course as well, I just didn't think what happened. I didn't think they would spend the money to get him when they wanted to see what the young players had in store. Obviously, that ended up being wrong because they ended up signing him last night to a one-year, $12 million deal, and I was very surprised with that. Like I said, everything I had heard and I had read was that they wanted to give the younger guys a chance at the designated hitter position, and that Martinez wasn't a fit for that, because if this is kind of not a rebuilding year, because if it was a rebuilding year, I don't think they would have made the moves they did this offseason, but it's kind of a seeing what you got year, seeing what David Stearns has in store for his first year and what he has beyond, seeing what he has in guys like Vientos specifically, who's going to be a big part of this segment, seeing what you have in those young designated hitter types. So I was surprised that he did end up signing the 37-year-old to a one-year deal instead of seeing what the younger guy in Vientos has. But I think in the end what happened was that Martinez his price got too low to pass up. I mean, this is a guy who's been a consistently amazing hitter his entire career, one of the best designated hitters in baseball for a long, long time. I would say still one of the better designated hitters. Again, not as good as he was in his prime, but still a really, really effective guy with the bat. And he was still out there. And signing him to a one-year, $12 million contract is pretty incredible. And also, he's not going to affect the luxury tax as much because they're deferring the contract 4 years. They're only paying him 4.5 this year, and then the rest of the money is deferred throughout years in the very much future. So it just made too much sense for them to get him. At that point, with the price point falling so low, David Stearns is a guy who knows how to get a good bargain. He came from Milwaukee, where they didn't have that much money, simply put, and they couldn't really afford the big free agents like he can now with the Mets. So he knows how to wait out a market. He knows what a good bargain is when he sees it, even though he still has the money now with the Mets. And I think he just saw Martinez's price going at this point and saying, okay, this is an incredible player, a guy who maybe doesn't fit the best on this team because of who we want to play, but at this point he still is somewhat of a fit and would make this team a lot better, and the price to a point where I just can't willingly say no. So they gave it to him, and he's on the Mets now. So I was very surprised when this happened, but overall I think it's a great deal for the Mets, and I think it's a great deal for Martinez. Martinez obviously said no to $15 million before with the Giants, as he wanted more of a hitter-friendly park. Now he's taking $3 million less to go to the Mets. Now, the Mets aren't exactly a hitter-friendly park, I would say, but they're definitely more hitter-friendly than San Francisco is for a right-handed hitter. So I think that's also why he came here. Again, $12 million is pretty great. He's going to a team that really needs him. The Mets have for 6 years needed another power bat besides Pete Alonso. They have a guy here now in Francisco Alvarez who I think could be a really nice guy for that, but you could always use more. Before that, I mean, guys you had protecting him were guys like JD Davis, Mike Conforto, Jeff McNeil. Good hitters, but are they the elite power hitters you want protecting your star bat? I don't think so. Even Lindor's not an elite hitter with the bat. He's an elite player, but his main signature is fielding. So he was not really the guy you want to protect Alonso. You want another big power bat, and you're getting one in JD Martinez, a guy who's made his career hitting home runs, being an incredible DH, and that's really why I love this move for the Mets. It finally gets some protection for Pete Alonso in what could be his last year. And overall, I just think Martinez makes this lineup so much better and so much deeper. The lineup was fine before, but now you have so many great players in that lineup. You have, first of all, Francisco Alvarez behind the plate. It was one of the better young catchers in baseball. I think will be a top 5 or 3 catcher in the league by the end of the year. I'm super high on him, and I think a lot of baseball fans are, with how much he has shown in his career so far. I mean, of course, Pete Alonso, one of the premier power hitters in the game. Jeff McNeil, a former batting title winner who's looking to bounce back. Francisco Lindor, a top 3 shortstop in baseball. He's top 2 before, but Mookie is now the shortstop of the Dodgers, so he's top 3. After that, Brandon Nimmo, an amazing player. Marte, a guy who's looking to bounce back. So you now go from a lot of question marks at the DH with Beatty and Vientos there to now a guy who's shown what he can do, is one of the most respected guys at that position, one of the guys that you can rely on. And it just makes this lineup so much better. I mean, you now have a top 5 of most likely Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, JD Martinez, Francisco Alvarez. Top 6, sorry. Those are 6 really good hitters. Really good hitters. And after that, it's not even that bad. First of all, you have Harrison Bader, who's not a bad hitter against lefties, and even though he's the defensive first guy. You have Beatty, who has a lot of potential still with the bat, has done well in spring, so he could potentially be looking for a career revitalized. After that, you have Marte, who was a great hitter when healthy, and hopefully is going to be healthy going into the year. Hasn't shown much in spring training, but you take spring training with a grain of salt. So I think Martinez makes him so much better. I think he makes the lineup so much deeper. And I love this move for the Mets, and I think it's a great move. So I think it's a great place for Martinez as well, going to a younger team that has a lot to fight for, trying to make the playoffs, trying to prove everyone wrong, and going to another big market. I mean, he was in LA last year, but that's really the only big markets he's been in. He's been in Miami, he's been in Houston, Detroit. He's been in obviously LA last year. He's been in Arizona, so Boston, of course. So really, Boston, LA, and New York. That's only really some of the big markets he's been in. So it's nice for him to return there to go to another big market. So I love the deal for the Mets. I love the deal for Martinez. I think it's a great fit of player and team. And I'm really excited to watch him as a Mets fan. I'm excited we got a power bat. I personally was never that high on Mark Vientos. I wanted to trade him in the offseason. So I always wanted to sign a veteran DH. I was more of a Jorge Soler guy, but I think Martinez works just as well. Now, are there some negatives with Martinez? Sure. Going over some of them now. First, you have his age. He is 37. Yes, he only hits, but he's had some injury issues in the past, specifically with his back. A few years ago, he had some problems there, which was one of the reasons he had a bad season last year with the Red Sox. I think that relates to his age as well. Also, he's going away from his hitting guru, which might sound kind of insane, but he got his career back on track with the Dodgers last year, and the guy he's known for hitting with in his career, a guy he's really good friends with, his personal hitting coach is with the Dodgers organization now. He went there and he kind of helped him again. So could that be an effect? Sure. Again, it sounds stupid, but all these things matter to a baseball player. I talked yesterday about Yoshinobu Yamamoto and how all these factors could be relating to his not great start. So I think you have to look at a lot of factors when looking at athletes and seeing what goes on with them. So I don't really think it's that insane to talk about, and I think it is something to watch. But again, I think it's mainly the age, and if the back problems flare up again, I think that will be a problem. But it's only a one-year deal, and they can just let him go after this year, no harm, no foul, if he is bad, unfortunately. So that's really all you can say about that. But now going off of Mark Vientos, what happens to him now? The thing is, I don't know. I think he was banking on being the opening day DH. I think the Mets were. I don't think they expected Martinez to sign with them. So I think he'll end up going in AAA, getting significant at-bats there, and coming up the first time anyone's hurt. The great thing about this Mets team is there's a lot of versatility. So, for example, if Brandon Nimmo were to get hurt, you could probably move Jeff to left field, put Vientos somewhere on the infield, and play him there. So I think there's a lot of versatility with this team, and you just want to get Vientos at bats as well as you can. I want to say using Brandon Nimmo was not the best example I could use because I don't think Vientos or Beatty play second base. But yeah, I was kind of just saying Vientos I think will be the first guy up if someone does get hurt because they do want to play him. It's just they don't have a spot for him now. I would personally trade him. I think even if he is good, his potential is an okay DH. I don't think his potential is so amazing that you have to play him. So I would have traded him. And that's why I'm not too mad about this Martinez signing. That's why I like it. Again, I'm not very high in Mark Vientos anyways, so I'm not really stressing about it. So that's really it. But yeah, for the Mike Vientos side of it, because he is a big part of this, considering the Mets fans and the Mets were banking on him being the opening day DH. So now looking at it from again a team perspective, how much better does it make them? Does it get them past above the teams that are ahead of them? Teams I mentioned yesterday, like the Cubs, the Padres, the Giants. I think those are really the only teams in reach. After that, the Diamondbacks, Phillies, Braves, Dodgers, I don't think are in reach for the Mets, but it doesn't make them better than the Giants and the Padres and the Cubs. Also the Reds, I would say, but Reds and Cubs are fighting for one spot because they'll be in the NL Central Crown, and then one of them get the wild card, but you get what I mean. I don't think it does, personally. I still think they needed to add another thing. I think the pitching is the problem. I think it really all relies on the pitching. I think that, again, I've talked about this a few times, but I think pitching is such a boom or bust with this Mets team. I think Minaya and Severino are either going to be amazing or really, really bad. So I don't think Martinez has really any effect on that. So overall, that's what I think. I think that it doesn't make them a significant enough of a better team to go over teams that were ahead of them before, like the Cubs, like the Reds, like the Padres, like the Giants. So again, I love the signing. I think it's significant. I think it makes the team a lot better, but I don't think it makes them better enough to catch teams like the Giants and specifically the Padres as well. Padres added Dylan Cease. They're probably going to add Tommy Pham soon. I mean, that's the writing's been on the wall for a long time, I think. The Giants just added the Cy Young winner from last year. They had a Matt Chapman, Jorge Soler, Jung-Hoo Lee before. So I don't think one JD Martinez signing matches up with that. Do I think it's a great signing? Absolutely. Do I think it makes the Mets team a lot better? Absolutely. But I don't think it's as significant enough to make them better than these teams on paper. I think the Mets and these teams that I mentioned are going to be fighting for one or two playoff spots, and it's going to be fun to watch. It's just I wouldn't say the Mets are at the top of that right now, even though the bias inside of me wants to say that and wants to shout, Mets going to the World Series 2024. They're going to sweep everyone. I don't believe me, I wish, but I don't think it's going to happen. So that was my first segment here, talking about JD Martinez signing with the New York Mets and the effects on it. So we're going to go to a break here, but before that, we're going to go to our second segment, which is going to be talking about the other big free agent now in the market, Jordan Montgomery, kind of the last of the big five still out there. So I'm just going to talk about him, some teams where I think he could end up, and just overall about that. So yeah, we're going to talk about that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks. Bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment. But before we do that, I would like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure this question does get read on the air, please use the link gsmcpodcast.net. Really does help the show, really does mean a lot. So thank you so much for that. Again, subscribe as well. Hit the notification link to not only see the content I make, but all the great content creators on this channel make. So hopefully you do that. But thank you for watching anyways, and let's get back into our second segment. So our second segment is going to be about what I would call the last of the big five on the market, Mr. Jordan Montgomery. Now, when I started this podcast, the top five free agents, five of the big free agents were still on the board, called kind of the Boris Five, which were, of course, Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, JD Martinez, and Jordan Montgomery. Now, they all have signed. Cody Bellinger re-signed with his former team, the Cubs. Matt Chapman went to San Francisco. Blake Snell went to San Francisco. You had JD Martinez go to the Mets. And now we're just waiting on Jordan Montgomery. So the big question is, where will Jordan Montgomery go? Where will he sign? What's going to happen with him? So I think that's a really big question that's going to be answered. I still don't really know. I'm going to tell you my guess, but we're going to talk about that, why he could still potentially be in the market, and I'll give you some teams that I believe can make a push for Mr. Montgomery. First, we're going to start off with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Now, the Angels, for a while, were the team I thought would sign Blake Snell. I thought it made a lot of sense just off the field and on, and I think with them not signing Blake Snell, they may potentially pivot to another free agent starting pitcher kind of on his level in Jordan Montgomery. I think Blake Snell's the better pitcher, but I still think Montgomery's really good. The Angels, of course, always need pitching. They have a younger team that has a lot of potential, but still needs a lot of surrounding pieces around it. And I think Montgomery could be the first big one. I think he would make a lot of sense in this team, bringing another legitimate arm to that rotation. Would really be one of the only ones now with Ohtani leaving. So I think Montgomery makes a lot of sense for the Angels. Mike Trout wants them to add. He wanted them to add JD Martinez. Obviously, that didn't end up happening because he signed with the Mets. So if he's a little mad, I'm sure Artie Moreno in the front office there with Perry Managian could potentially add Jordan Montgomery to make him feel better, give the rotation a lot more legs, a lot more depth. So I think that's a possibility for him going there because, again, they need pitching. I think he makes a lot of sense in Los Angeles. So I do see Jordan Montgomery to the Angels as a possibility. They do, of course, have a lot of money to spend after Ohtani left. I read a report that said Artie Moreno thought Shohei's contract would start with a 4 in regards to $400 million, which not related to this. It's kind of related because of the Angels, but that's just hilarious in my opinion. I don't know why in the world you would think it was going to start with a 4. I mean, I didn't think it would start with a 7, but I thought it would start with a 5 or a 6 at least. Jeez, so just shows you who runs that franchise over there. So I think the Angels are a possible fit for Montgomery. If they want to try and bridge the gap between competing and rebuilding, I think Montgomery's a good step to do that. Add a guy and try to build him with this younger team. The core you have, guys like Zach Neto, Nolan Shanuel, Logan O'Hoppe, who I forgot the name of for a second, Mickey Moniak, who even was doing really nice. So I think Montgomery to the Angels makes a lot of sense if they do end up spending. But I don't know if they will. I don't know if they'll open the checkbook. So it's going to be something to watch here and something to see what happens as the season goes on and as the offseason goes on. The season starts on Thursday, by the way, and Montgomery hasn't signed yet. That's pretty incredible. The Phillies are the next team I want to talk about here. The Phillies have consistently been mentioned as a mystery team for a lot of players. Mystery team for Josh Hader, for Blake Snell. And the only thing they've really done this offseason so far is bring back Aaron Nola, sign Spencer Turnbull, and sign Whit Merrifield. Fine additions, but nothing that I think bridges the gap for them to make them a automatic championship contender. You know, you made it to the World Series the year before. You lost there. You made it to the NLCS this year. You lost there. I don't know why you're not making a move that's considered a big move to try and get you over that hump. I'm confused at that. So that's something I am a little concerned about if I was a Phillies fan. You lose to these teams for 2 years, and you still haven't made a move. So, sorry for me playing with my caller. I'm realizing it's not right now, but to go on here. I do think the Phillies make a lot of sense for Montgomery. I think there could be some more potential pitching depth needed in that rotation, with Taijuan Walker not living up to his contract, Christopher Sanchez being a question mark. So I think Montgomery makes a lot of sense for the Phillies, and I think he is a really good fit there. But I'm just not sure if they want to give out the big bucks, they want to give out that big contract to Montgomery. So it's something to watch and something to see what is going to happen, and just what ends up happening with Montgomery and the Phillies, and where he does end up signing if it is with the Phillies. Next, we have his old team, his alma mater, the big bad Bronx Bombers, the New York Yankees. So the Yankees have been mentioned with Montgomery a lot because they've needed pitching. They know him well from his days in the Bronx, of course. His price point makes sense for them. It's been recent reports that they have reinitiated talks with him for a contract. I don't know if I believe that, but that's what's happened. So, do I see Montgomery going back to the Yankees? Absolutely not. I don't think there's really any chance at all Montgomery goes back to the Yankees. I just think with the luxury tax situation they're in, I really don't think it's going to happen. They have so much money on the books. They have so much money just all around this team right now. I don't think they can afford Montgomery. If they sign him to, let's say, a 1 year, $25 million deal, it would probably really be 1 year, $50 because of where they are on the luxury tax. So I just don't think it makes any sense for him to go back. I don't think he can. I think he wants to, and I think the Yankees want him to come back, but I just don't think it will. I also think he's looking for a long-term contract. I don't think he's one of these guys like his counterparts, like Bellinger, like Chapman, like Snell, who are going to take a short-term deal and trying to hit the market next year. I don't think that's going to happen with Montgomery, but I could be wrong at this point. So I don't think he goes back to the Yankees. I think it makes a lot of sense for him too, but I don't think he will, and I don't think that's a fit here. I think it's a fit just because it's a baseball fit, but a team-wise, I don't think it's a fit at all. So I would not count on Jordan Montgomery going back to the Yankees if I was a Yankees fan or someone wanting to see what happens with Montgomery. Now, I said Dylan Cease would go to the Rangers and then got traded to the Padres a few hours later. I said Blake Snell would go to the Angels. He then signed with the Giants a few hours later. And yesterday I said I don't think JD Martinez would go to the Mets or the Angels, and then he signed with the Mets a few hours later. So I think if you're a Yankees fan, you're very excited for me talking about that because all my takes have been wrong, pretty wrong so far. So that's the thing there. So I think you want me to kind of jinx your teams. So hey, I'll probably look on my phone after the show's over, and Montgomery's going to end up signing a 6-year deal with the Yankees, right? Because that's how it works. So, I mean, crazier things have happened. It's just I don't foresee seeing Montgomery ending up back with the Yankees. I just don't think it's a likely possibility at this point. Finally, the fourth team I have on here is the team I think he ends up going to, and that is the Boston Red Sox. Now, I've talked so much about Montgomery and the Red Sox and why it's a fit, and I'm going to continue talking about it because it's still a big news story. I may have overdone it all this time talking about it on the podcast, but again, it's a huge news story and something I do want to touch upon. And why I think Montgomery ends up with the Red Sox is fairly simple. First of all, they need pitching. That's not a surprise. They needed pitching before, but now with their ace, Lucas Giolito, being out for the season, I think Montgomery signing there just makes so much more sense. Adds another legitimate top of the end rotation to you. So I would say Montgomery to the Red Sox makes a lot of sense. I think it's something that is likely in that regard because of the baseball fit going off the field as well. I've talked about it a lot, but he lives in Boston in the offseason. There's a lot of rumors. There's been a lot of videos about him training there, getting ready for the season in Boston, in the area. So staying home, I'm sure, at least for this year, or if he does get a long-term contract, would be nice. His wife works at a hospital in Boston, apparently, so that's another thing, staying close to the family. So the Red Sox need pitching. Montgomery would stay in the area of Boston, signing with the Red Sox. So for all those reasons, I think Montgomery to the Red Sox just makes so much sense. I think it's really a likely fit at this point. I'm wondering what the holdup is. There's been so many rumors about it. I think the Red Sox end up giving him a major deal. I would say probably 5 to 7 years. I would say somewhere from 20 to 23 million average annually. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. I think it makes a lot of sense for Montgomery for the reasons I listed. I also think this would be a great signing for the Red Sox in general. Next year, you would then have Brian Bayo, more developed. You would have Jordan Montgomery. You would have Lucas Giolito getting fully healthy. Other guys as well who potentially stick on, like Tanner Houck, Garrett Whitlock, Nick Pivetta. They're all mediocre pitchers, but they could all potentially show something next year and stick on with this team for a long time if they do perform well. So I think that's another thing to watch here if you are a Red Sox fan, seeing what could happen next year with these guys and seeing how they will perform. So overall, I think Montgomery to the Red Sox is a really strong signing, really strong fit as well. So I would, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would put money on Montgomery to the Red Sox. I think it makes a ton of sense for the reasons I listed on the field and off. And overall, I do think that's where he ends up landing, but I wouldn't be surprised if a mystery team gets involved. One team I think could be a mystery team in this is the Cubs. I think they have a lot of money to burn, and I think they could use a starting pitcher like Montgomery with what's happened this offseason. So overall, I think Montgomery to the Red Sox is a strong fit, but some other teams could potentially be in play here that I didn't mention. But Montgomery to the Red Sox, I think, is what I would be placing on right now. Yankees are also a strong fit. Phillies are also a strong fit. Angels are also definitely a strong fit. But again, I would say right now, Montgomery to the Red Sox is what I would be thinking if I was a Red Sox fan, and if I was someone who's a fan of Jordan Montgomery and wants to see where he ends up. I'm really hoping his market goes soon, because once Jordan Montgomery signs, I will be doing my full offseason grades, which is my favorite thing to do. I love the offseason. I love giving my opinions on it. I think it'll be a great piece of content. So as soon as Jordan Montgomery signs, the minute he signs, I'm making those offseason grades. They're going up for the next episode. That's what it's going to be built around. And next week is the week of baseball. Thursday's when the game starts. So believe me, next week's going to be a lot of fun previewing the season. Tuesday, I'm going to have a special guest on, so that's also going to be super fun to talk about. So yeah, really looking forward to that. So that is the end of our second segment here, talking about Jordan Montgomery and the potential fits where he could go after the JD Martinez signing, with him really being the only guy left on the market who is notable. We're going to go to our second break here, but before that, we're going to go to our third segment, which is going to talk about notable roster moves today. There was 3 real big roster moves I did want to talk about, which I thought were really interesting and notable. So we will go over that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment here, which is going to be talking about some notable roster moves today. Obviously, it being so close into the regular season starting, Thursday is the first game and is opening day. The first game was yesterday and all that, but really opening day is on Thursday, so that's really what I wanted to talk about. There's been a lot of roster moves, really 3 main things I wanted to talk about for players going up and down. One player was up, one player was down. So for the rosters, how them making the teams and them not making the teams, how they affected it. It's mainly about prospects. You'll see what I mean. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm excited to get into it. So let's go. So the first one we're going to be talking about is my boy, my guy, a guy I've talked about so much on this podcast, how much I love him. And that, of course, is the Texas Rangers outfielder, Wyatt Langford. I love this guy so much. I think he's incredible, and I'm so glad to hear that he made the opening day roster for the Texas Rangers. Bruce Bochy announced it. He was an absolute beast in spring training, leading every single person in home runs. Had an amazing OPS, was walking as well. Just an all-around outstanding player. I think he's going to be a premier player in the league really, really soon. I think he'll be a top 5 player in 3 to 5 years. John Heyman said a scout compared Wyatt Langford to Mike Trout. I don't know if I'd go that far, but even for me, that's a little much. But I think Wyatt Langford's an incredible talent. I think his pure hitting talent is just absolutely incredible. I think he's overall just an amazing player and just truly so good. And I think it's unfair that the World Series champion Texas Rangers get to add him to their lineup. Looking at their lineup right now, you have Jonah Heim, Nathaniel Lowe, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Josh Young, Adolis Garcia, Evan Carter, and now you have Wyatt Langford. I mean, what is there to say about this lineup? What is there to say about this lineup? I also forgot Ezekiel Duran, by the way, who plays center field, also amazing. Those are 9 great hitters. This lineup is incredible now with Langford making it. I assume he'll play DH in outfield, mainly DH. Now, you have Jonah Heim, who's a great hitter, a catcher. Nathaniel Lowe, great hitter, of course. He plays first base. Corey Seager, best shortstop in baseball, pretty easily. Marcus Semien, one of the better hitting second basemen in baseball. Josh Young, a really nice young guy who's hit well. Adolis Garcia, absolute beast. His nickname's El Bombi for a reason. Evan Carter, a guy who's a top prospect who's shown a lot of what he's made of last year coming up. Wyatt Langford, who I've talked about. Ezekiel Duran, an amazing utility player who can also hit really, really well. So I'm so excited Langford made the opening day roster, and I'm so excited about how much he makes this team better, how much more depth he gives this Rangers lineup. I predicted the Rangers a few times to land JD Martinez simply for the fact of they needed a DH, and I think Wyatt Langford pretty much covers that. I think we'll probably slot in somewhere from 3 to 6 in that lineup. And man, oh man, is this Rangers lineup incredible. Again, I just talked about it. All these guys are amazing hitters. They're just incredible talents, and adding Wyatt Langford to them is really just unfair. Honestly, I don't know how much better this makes their team. The problem with me still is the pitching. I talk about their pitching a lot because they are defending world champions. They're going to be in the news a lot. That's just how it's going to work. I mean, the pitching isn't great. Which Max Scherzer hurt, Jacob deGrom hurt. You signed Tyler Mahle to be an impact in the second half. So you're relying on guys like Nate Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney, John Gray, Dane Dunning to be top-of-the-line guys. You did just sign Michael Lorenzen, yes, so I like the move yesterday, but it's not significant enough to get them past these other teams. And I would say the same thing about Wyatt Langford and him making the opening day roster. I, again, am super high on Wyatt Langford. I think he's an amazing player, but I still don't think they're better than the Astros. I don't think they're better than the Mariners for the main fact of the pitching. Wyatt Langford can only do so much. This lineup can only do so much. If Nate Eovaldi regresses a little bit, if Heaney regresses a little bit, with that bullpen as well, I'm just not sure how their pitching is going to perform. I don't think it'll perform well, and that's the main reason I'm not high in the defending world champs. I still think they're a great team. I still think they're amazing. It's just, I think a lot of teams better, and I think the pitching is just such a big worry with Scherzer and DeGrom. Could I change my mind on this tomorrow and think they're going to make the playoffs? 100%. So everything is very fluid here. That if you see on Tuesday that I have them making the playoffs, which is where I'm going to do my playoff predictions with my special guest host, who I'll talk about it at the end of the show. You know, don't try and do that thing where, you just said yesterday that you think that you didn't have to make the playoffs. No, everything's very fluid, and after doing my research, I could change my mind and all that kind of stuff. As you can see, I'm not made up on my mind. I'm not made up on this decision yet. So, but as of right now, I don't think the Rangers are good enough to make the playoffs because of the pitching where it is, and also the sheer amount of teams that are in this AL. The Yankees, the Orioles, the Astros. You have the Rays, you have the Blue Jays, you have the Mariners. Teams I think are better than them. The Twins are better, but I think they're a lock to win the division, so I don't really mention them in trying to get a wild card. So, overall, I think the Rangers are an amazing team still. I think Wyatt Langford makes them a lot better, but I don't think he makes them as significant of a better team to make the playoffs, undoubtedly, after this, after I've talked so much junk about them, after I've said how I don't think they're that good because of their pitching. So I'm not going to automatically change my viewpoint on that, but I think Wyatt Langford makes them a much better team. I think he's a great player, and I think he's a guy to watch out in the MLB for years to come, and someone I'm really excited to watch here. After that, the second news story I wanted to talk about was Jackson Holliday. Now, kind of a surprising thing here, and that is Jackson Holliday did not make the Orioles opening day roster. Kind of a shocker to me. He was the first overall pick for a reason. He is the top prospect in baseball for a reason. I kind of expected him to make the opening day roster, be the opening day shortstop for the Orioles, but I guess they thought otherwise. Is this mainly for a reason of they want to manipulate his service time and more and less of the fact that they don't think he's ready? Probably, but that's how these small market teams work, unfortunately. You're not going to get these big free agents to come there. You have to probably pay players a little bit more to stay because it is a smaller market team. So I think that's just what is going to happen there. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is with these smaller market teams. You have to manipulate their service time because of the fact that you are a smaller market team. You aren't going to be as attractive to these players because you play in Baltimore, Maryland. You don't play in New York or LA or Boston or something like that. So I think that's the reason why they do this. It could just also be they're cheap. I could just be thinking too much about it, that the Orioles are cheap and don't want to pay Jackson Holliday 1 year after he's done. So that could just be the reason. I could just be overthinking it, but I think that's what it has to do with it as well. But I'm very disappointed that Jackson Holliday did not make the opening day roster. I think he's going to be an amazing MLB shortstop the day he steps onto that field. I mean, this guy just has baseball in him, with all his brothers that are prospects coming up in the draft cycle. His father being Matt Holliday, an amazing player in himself. So I think Jackson Holliday is an amazing player. I think he would have been amazing the day he stepped onto that field for Baltimore, being their franchise shortstop. And looking at the Orioles now with Jackson Holliday not starting the year on the opening day roster, you're probably going to have an infield of Ryan Mountcastle, of probably Jordan Westerberg, Gunnar Henderson, and Jorge Mateo. I would have Henderson playing third because they still want to leave the spot open for Jackson Holliday. You're going to have Jorge Mateo short at shortstop now. Mateo's not a bad player, but he's not an incredible player, and the reason you should be sending down Jackson Holliday with the talent he has. So again, not a great decision in my opinion, and not the best choice for them. So I would have had him up. I think he's better than Jorge Mateo. I would have traded him for some pitching, Mateo, and I think he would have made an amazing infield so far for this future. You have other guys coming up over the system as well that could fill in at second base and third. Not third, sorry. You have Gunnar Henderson there that doesn't need filling in, but first base as well. Mountcastle's pretty great. Second, there could be some additions. Jordan Westerberg is good, but you also have Ramon Urias there who could potentially be there. You have some younger prospects coming up, so I don't know how that's going to work. But I would have had Jackson Holliday make the opening day roster. I think he deserved it, and I am kind of disappointed that he didn't make it. But that's baseball. These teams are going to manipulate service time. Really, nothing you can do about it. So I keep saying Langford. I got Wyatt Langford on the brain. Sorry. I would have had Jackson Holliday start the year in the Major League roster. I would have had him be your opening day shortstop. I think it would have brought a lot of buzz to Baltimore, a lot of buzz to Birdtown. So I think it would have been a great decision, but I understand why they didn't have it. I don't think baseball-wise the right decision, but organizational-wise, if they feel they need to have that 1 year of control of him because they play in Maryland and not one of these bigger markets, I understand. I would try to extend him as soon as possible, though, I will say. I mean, if I was them, I'd be offering him an Acuna contract right now or something like the Julio contract. I mean, Jackson Holliday's just going to be so good the minute he steps on and plays a significant role for this Orioles team. So, yeah, I'm super excited to watch him in the future and super excited to see what does happen with him. The last one we have here is not related to Langford and Holliday at all, but was a really cool story I wanted to touch upon, and I wanted to make sure it was highlighted here, and that is Carlos Carrasco. He was not re-signed by the Mets, of course, after having a pretty disastrous year last year, and his last year in the orange and blue, coming over in that highly publicized trade of him and Lindor. I was an okay Met, nothing real too special, but he signed with the Guardians on a non-roster invite on a minor league deal and made the roster, we found out. I'm not sure what his role is going to be. I think it'll more be a long reliever out of the bullpen, a guy who fills in at the number 5 spot right now. The Guardians are dealing with a lot of injuries to their pitching staff. Mainly for the starters, it is probably Gavin Williams as a guy who Carrasco may fill in for. But I think this is such a cool story. I'm super excited for Carrasco and super happy for him. This is just such a nice story. The Guardians, who don't have much going on for them this season, see an opportunity to bring back one of the fan favorites, one of the great guys in this game, in Carlos Carrasco. I think it's just such a good idea, such a heartwarming thing, and such a nice thing to do if you are the Guardians franchise. Cookie means so much to the Cleveland fan base, to the city. He's done so much work with the kids there. He was a big part of the city after getting diagnosed with cancer, seeing him overcome that and pitch after that and pitch really well. He's one of the better guys in the game, such a good guy. You never really hear anything bad about him, so I'm super happy about that, super happy that he made the team, that he also earned making the team. They didn't just bring him back for a gimmick. I think he did earn it. He had a nice spring. I think he's going to bring a lot to this Guardians team, a lot to their pitching depth. I think bringing in a veteran pitcher like him can never go wrong. And I think he's going to make this team a lot better. I think he's going to bring a lot to that clubhouse. And I think it's just such an exciting thing and such a nice thing in baseball. You have all these negative stories about baseball all the time, especially yesterday with Shohei Ohtani and the translator situation. It's so nice to have something like this that's super positive and really exciting. So I'm super happy for Carrasco and super excited that he made the Guardians roster. So recapping a tiny bit, I think Wyatt Langford is going to make the Rangers line up a lot better and a lot deeper. I think it was a great decision by the Rangers to realize this guy's ready even after getting picked very recently out of the draft. So overall, I think it was a great move, and I think it was a great job to recognize his talent and get him on the opening day roster. I think it was a great job to do that as well with Jackson Holliday for the Orioles. Sorry, I mean the opposite. I think it was a bad decision to start him in AAA. I think he is ready, but I think he'll be up shortly as long as his service time is manipulated by the Orioles. And that's just the way teams go, and that's the way how baseball goes right now with smaller market teams. So, yeah, that's it for segment 3 here. We're going to go to our last segment, which is going to be talking about some general news stories around the league that I wanted to touch upon. There's a good amount of things for a Random Friday, so we'll touch upon those, and we'll get it out to you. So thanks, and see you after that. Bye.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our 4th and final segment, which is going to be about some general news stories around the league that I did want to touch upon. As I stated before, there are a good amount of stories happening for kind of just a random Friday, so I did want to talk about these, and I'm really excited to touch upon them. So, yeah, here we go. So, the first thing is Yuri Perez, starting off some negative news. He has shoulder inflammation and will start the season on the IL for the Marlins. Now, this is good and bad news. The bad news is he's starting the season on the IL, and it's shoulder inflammation. Obviously, you don't want to see your star pitcher ever get hurt like that, especially a young guy like that. You never want to see that. The good news, he doesn't need surgery. That's what the recommendation is right now from whatever doctor he did see, that he will not need surgery as of right now, just rest and relaxation for that arm, which I think he can do. So it's very positive that it's not Tommy John or something serious like that. But I do want to be clear and say that just because it is shoulder inflammation and that he doesn't need surgery right now doesn't mean he won't need it in the future. I think an injury like this, especially for a younger guy, could potentially sneak up on him and affect him a lot into his future. I don't think the door's closed on him having a setback in his process and needing a surgery after. So I think that's really just what the Marlins need to avoid right now. Yuri's such a big part of this team for this year and the future, and you have to be extra cautious with him always because he is a face to your franchise and a guy that is really, really good. So that's the positive news, that it's only shoulder inflammation. The negative news, it could get a lot worse always. I mean, I guess that's kind of the same thing for every injury, so not much to comment on that. And also, he is starting the season on the IL, but it could have been a lot worse. You're hoping it doesn't get worse, and you're hoping he doesn't have a setback. So that's all you can really ask for with the Marlins, and that's really all you can hope for with Yuri Perez and his future. So we'll be monitoring that story a lot, and we'll be giving you updates on it as the season does go on. Next, we have the Guardians. They waived starting center fielder Miles Straw. Straw came over in a trade with the Astros a few years ago and did his Miles Straw thing, which is play great defense and not hit at all. He kind of became a cold tier run that way, never hitting home runs ever. Hit a home run in first time in like 600 at bats or something crazy like that against Tampa last year, which was crazy. So Straw plays great defense, but cannot hit a lick. Only had a few years left in this contract. I think it was only 1 or 2 base extension he got from the Astros a few years ago after being traded. So yeah, it's not a surprise they waived him because I think fans' patience with him was getting thin. He was a fun guy, a great guy in the clubhouse, a great just dude in general who played great defense and does bring some value to this team, but he just didn't hit at all. He was very, very frustrating for the fans to watch because he was always the 9 guy, always killing down rallies. So I think in the end his time was over with the Guardians and he knew it. So not a surprise that they cut him. I think he'll get claimed pretty easily. I think some team will want his defensive versatility and how well he does play defense for later inning things. So I think he'll land on his feet, but not that surprising they cut him. He was a starter for a little while, so I guess it's surprising in that way, but still. Trevor Gott is having Tommy John surgery for the A's and will be out obviously all of this year. Gott was a signing by the A's that I liked a lot. I think he showed a lot of promise for the Mets last year in bullpen roles, kind of towards the end. He has great stuff, but his windup's really funky, and I think that contributed to him getting Tommy John. I think there's a lot of potential with him there. I think there's a lot of hidden talent, but overall, he's not, of course, an amazing reliever. So I don't think this is a huge blow to the A's, who didn't have much going for him anyways. Obviously, you would have liked for him to stay healthy because he was going to be a big part of your bullpen. I think he could have been a guy that could have closed out some games for him. Him and Mason Miller kind of being in the back end of that bullpen. Potentially gotten a nice reliever at the deadline for him. But obviously that's not going to happen now with him getting Tommy John, with him being out for the year. So really unfortunate for the A's, but I don't think the season was going to go right anyways, and I don't think a Trevor Gott injury is going to stop that. The D-backs released Elvis Andrus. He was signed to a minor league deal. I liked it originally. I thought it was good mentorship for the young guys they have in their roster who play shortstop. Obviously, he was a great shortstop in his prime, was one of the better ones in the league with Texas. Has not done great in the later parts of his career, flopping around from teams, getting traded to the A's, signing with the White Sox, getting released from the White Sox, now going to the Diamondbacks. So hasn't really lived up in the end of his career with what he once was, but I still thought it was a good depth signing for them. Obviously, they released him. They don't need him anymore, but I think he probably laid some good wisdom upon their young shortstops, Geraldo Perdomo, Jordan Lawler. So I think overall it was a nice move by the Diamondbacks to bring him in. I don't think he ever had a chance to make the opening day roster, but overall it was a nice move by them, and not a surprise they released him, but I think it was a good move anyways. Casey Mize and Reese Olson won rotation spots for the Tigers, beating out Matt Manning. Really nice job by Casey Mize and Reese Olson. I think both these guys have a lot of potential being younger guys, especially Casey Mize being such a prolific prospect, being such a high draft pick, being a guy that really has not had a great start to his career. It's really nice to see him land back at his feet, win a rotation spot with the Tigers, and be a big part of the team this year, which I think could be really good. I think they have a lot of good pitchers in that rotation, like Tarek Skubal, like Jack Flaherty, who they signed. I think there's some other young guys who can make potential as well. So really excited for Casey Mize to make the rotation, see what he can do off of injury in his first full year. Really excited for Reese Olson. I think he has a lot of potential. So overall, I think both these guys are going to be very valuable to the Tigers and very valuable to the team. And I think it was a nice job for them to win rotation spots. Nice job for them to see that they still have a future on this team. And really excited to watch them with the Tigers and see what does end up happening with them. See how they do perform this season. The Giants released Amir Garrett. Not too notable here, but a nice lefty reliever I think could benefit some teams on a minor league contract. A guy who brings a lot of heart to the team, is really valuable in that ways. I think has a nice fastball as well, has a nice slider. Could potentially get something out of him if you do put him in the right role. So a nice depth move for any team that signs him. Not a huge thing, but still someone I did want to touch upon as he did get released, and I thought it was notable. After that, we have Eduardo Rodriguez. I talked about him leaving his spring training start early because of injury. It has now been confirmed that he has a left lat strain and will start the season on the injured list. That was some news that broke right before I went on air, so did want to talk about that. This, in my opinion, is a big blow to the Diamondbacks. I love the Eduardo Rodriguez signing for the Diamondbacks. I thought he was the perfect number 3 to that team, and I thought he was a guy that balanced out the rotation really well. Him, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Brandon Pfaadt. I think that was a great top 4 there, and I think it was really, really nice. It's unfortunate that he is starting the season on the IL. Obviously, I think they would have liked him to not start the season on the IL. I think it would have been great for him to be a big part of the rotation going into the year, be what they paid him, but as long as he's okay, and as long as he's okay in the long run for the Diamondbacks playoff run, I think they'll be okay. I don't think it should be a big deal, long-term thing. So that's really all you have to hope for if you are a Diamondbacks fan. This not being a huge deal, and this being kind of a bump in the road for him. A left lat strain isn't the worst thing to happen. It's not a shoulder injury. It's not an elbow. It's not an arm in general. So that's a positive always with injuries. So that's all you can really ask for if you are a Diamondbacks fan with the injury. So I think we'll be better. I think it'll be a great team for this Diamondbacks, a great player for this Diamondbacks team, a great fit, and I'm really excited to watch him when he does get healthy. I think this isn't a great start to the year. It is a blow in my opinion, but a lot of worse things could have happened, and I think overall it will be fine. The Blue Jays, they released Eduardo Escobar. Escobar brought some nice infield depth to this team with the third base position kind of being in flux. I think it's now pretty clear that it is going to be to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa who will be starting, so I don't think Escobar had a spot on this team. I think he could potentially re-sign with them on a minor league contract, just bring in some more infield depth, which I do think they need. Always need some more depth, and I think Escobar is a guy who brings a lot of depth to this team, brings a lot of depth to any team he's on, even though he might not hit amazing. He is a guy that is very reliable and can fill in some spot starts, and is a very streaky hitter, so if you get him at the right time, I think could be an impactful guy. But other than that, I see him landing on his feet. I think he could land on a minor league deal somewhere else on a team. I think that is a strong possibility. I think he does have a lot of value to a team still, and overall, I am excited to see where he ends up. As a Mets fan, I always have a special place in my heart for Escobar. He had a really nice September with us, getting us in the playoffs when it was kind of in doubt, when our team was struggling a little bit. Obviously didn't end up mattering because we lost the Padres, but still always have a special place in my heart for him. I still think he's valuable depth to this team, to any team that signs him, and I think he just is good rotation, good infield depth. Yuki Matsui is apparently commenting in my live stream. Hello, Yuki. I don't think you're the real Yuki Matsui. It'd be pretty cool if you were, but still, hello. Thank you for commenting. Always appreciated. The show is coming to an end, so if you do have any questions before I do end, please let me know. Finally, the Nationals also broke before this. They are releasing Zach Davies. Not a real surprise here. Davies is a guy that's been trying to hold on in the MLB after his release from the Diamondbacks. Was a starter there for a few years, but with them improving and them improving in the rotation department specifically, I don't think Davies had a spot in this team. There's also some personal things as well with his wife that happened a few years ago. I don't think any teams really want to take a flyer on that when he might have some personal issues off the field, some off-the-field stuff. So I think the writing was on the wall for him. I don't think he was making the roster anyways. YouTube commenter asked, would you trust an interpreter with your bank account worth $4.5 million? I think I know what that's referencing. I don't know enough about the situation personally to comment on what's happening with Ohtani and interpreter. I think it's unfortunate that their friendship is gone, because that was something really nice to watch over the years. But I don't know enough about the situation, unfortunately, to really comment on it enough. I think it's more of a legal situation than a baseball situation. I think overall, if I had to give a guess on what happened with Ohtani in that situation, I think Ippei had a gambling problem. I think with illegal gambling rings, I think he asked his good buddy Ohtani to pay it off. Ohtani did. He then told his lawyers, which then they told him, hey, Shohei, you can't pay off an illegal gambling debt. That's a crime, and tried doing PR control. So I think that's really what happened here. But again, I don't know enough about the situation to really give a full thing. But if I had to guess, I think that is what happened, and we'll see what happened more with the situation going forward. It's going to be a big news, believe me. But going back to Zach Davies, I think it's not a surprise that he got released. Even with the Nationals pitching staff where it is, I don't think he really had a spot in there. So overall, not a big surprise here to see him get released. So that is the show for today. If you have one more question, Yuki, please let me know. But other than that is the show for today. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to follow us anywhere you can get content and updates. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Just anywhere you can get updates. Happy Friday. Tuesday, I will be having a special guest on, which is Eric from the Wrestling Podcast. We're going to talk some baseball. So I'm really excited about that. So we'll definitely talk there. So thank you so much for watching. Apparently, Yuki in the comments has one more last question. So the question is, better record in 2024, Yankees or Mets? I'm a Mets fan, but it's going to be the Yankees. I think the Yankees have a pretty incredible team, even with Garrett Cole being hurt. I think the Soto addition was huge, and I think it's going to make them such a much better team. I'm very high on them. I think they are a top 3 team in the AL pretty easily. I don't have the Mets making the playoffs right now, so I would say the Yankees are definitely going to have a better record than the Mets, as much as it does hurt me to say as a Mets fan, but that is what I would say there, and I don't think it's going to be close as well. I think the Yankees are going to be a high 90s team, and I think the Mets are going to be a mid 80s team, so if I had to guess there. So thank you so much for watching the show today, guys. Thank you so much for commenting, liking. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Helps the content a lot, helps so much. So thank you so much for watching. It is always appreciated, and happy Friday. See you on Monday, and have a great week, and we'll see what baseball throws at us tomorrow. Bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.